So sex is a bond. You must bind and bond rightly. What's up, people? Coach Global here, and today I want to talk about sex is a bond. Initially, I wanted to talk about the consequences of sex, but I have made it as sex being a bond, so that by explaining it, we'll all come to a term of understanding. Before I start this whole thing, I want to first of all tell everyone, you and me, to ask for forgiveness. We all literally have to ask for forgiveness of God. For forgiveness and forgiveness from God. And we have to call on Him for mercy. It's very important. What I'm going to explain would tell you why sex is what it is. But before this whole thing kickstarts, I just want you to know that many people, many of us, we've taken sex so lightly. We've taken the value of sex out of context. We've taken the importance of sex out of its original intent. What I'm trying to say is this: sex, which is supposed to be something that is enjoyable, has now become an enemy. People are just having sex left, right, center, everywhere. People are just doing it, and it's sad. It's sad. We have taken sex so cheap. We have taken sex so lightly, so casual, that we don't see the value in it. That is why these things are happening. Also, I want to say, the reason we make mistakes is because we do not know. However, if we would only but know, I'm sure we would avoid mistakes. I'm looking forward to the time where parents will sit their children down and educate them about sex. I'm looking forward to the time where parents would not make their children know and think that sex is nasty to talk about, or it's a crime, or it's a taboo to talk about. And I'm also looking forward to the day and time where a pastor on a pulpit will be to his message, we are going to talk about sex. I'm not sure people will stand up. I'm not sure people will stand up at all. Now, everything that exists, first of all, has a nature, and then comes the act. In my previous video, I said sex is not a sin, and this is why I said sex is not a sin. Sex in itself, the nature, is not a sin. Sex in the act is not a sin. I repeat that again. Sex in the nature and act is not a sin. The act itself is not a sin. God made sex a beautiful thing. Like I said in my previous video, human beings are first of all sexual, not because they married or not because marriage is in place. But we need to understand that human beings are first of all sexual. If you and I know that human beings are first of all sexual, I'm sure we will be able to manage our appetite once it comes, once it rises. But because we do not know of it, we do not know what it entails, what it consists of, I'm sure that is why we are doing it the way we are doing it. This is one of the reasons I said sex is not a sin. Like, that's my main reason. In Genesis chapter 1, the verse 27, 28, it says, 26, 27, 28. It says, in the image of God made He them male and female. And He said, be fruitful and multiply. I believe this is just the thing, the underlining thing about sex. God Himself has commanded us to have sex. How do you only but have sex? Is it not to be fruitful? Is it not to multiply? So God has unleashed it. He has bestowed that on us. Be fruitful and multiply. God is saying we should have sex. But having sex is not just the end of it. Satisfying your desire, satisfying your pleasure is not just the end of it. There are a lot of things that makes it what it is. And I believe that you have to know what makes sex sex, so that you just don't jump into it, just don't go into it. God said, be fruitful and multiply. But that's not just it. Now, I want you to understand this thing, that God's words are laws. They are spiritual laws. You cannot do away without God's words. And God saying, be fruitful and multiply is a law. Also, it's more of an endorsement. Also, it's more of a certification that do it, and this is the outcome. But it is governed by a law. At the end of the day, God, created animals, created man, and then asked man to name the animals. Man named the animals, and God later came and said, but for man there was none found for him. And God caused the man to sleep and made a woman and all of that. Just like God gave Adam it has a power governing it, and that law must not be violated. It means that for the law of sex to work, to be appreciated, to be valued, each and every man must have their wife. Each and every man must have their wife. So if you don't have your wife and you are sleeping with somebody's daughter, you're having sex with somebody's daughter who is not your wife, you are violating the law. And once you break the law, the consequences come. Now, one of the things I've come to find is this. I believe that the reason the law came was so that every man, once we do it rightly, we go through the right channels, we'll have this one thing that everybody is craving for: peace. Think about it. Have you ever had sex with somebody and you've never had peace in your mind and your heart? You always feel like, hey, somebody will catch you. You always feel like somebody will go and tell somebody and somebody will catch you and all of that. Have you ever felt that before? Yes, it's because you have not done it rightly. Sex is a bond. Now, I'm just going to share 3 things with you to tell you why sex is what it is, and the purpose of sex, or the reason for sex. The actual reason that when you are penetrating, or the actual thing you should be thinking about when you are penetrating, is this. The first one is, sex is something that is created by God, that it must be enjoyed at the end of the day. It must be enjoyable. It must be enjoying. It must be exciting. It must be fulfilling. That's reason number 1. Second reason is for procreation. Second reason is for procreation. So if you're having sex and you're not giving birth, you're not procreating, you're violating the law also. Wow. It's tough, isn't it? It's tough, right? So you must have sex rightly. Now, once you violate the law, that's what makes it a sin. And God really considers sin as disobedience, and disobeying God simply is violating his law. And once you do that, it's even more deep and detailed than you think. That's you like declaring independence. God has said something and you're doing something else against what he has said. Against what he has said. Now, when you have sex unrightly, you get issues. Issues like contacting diseases, pregnancy, childbirth, premature childbirth because you probably were not ready for it. And all of these issues. There are a lot of issues that comes with sex. But the most importantly, and the third reason for having sex is for physical binding, or the bond which makes it the covenant, which fulfills the covenant with the seal. So bonding with somebody is when you're having sex with somebody. So when you have sex with somebody, you actually bond with the person. And once you do that, it's a covenant you have sealed. Let me quickly read to you what the word bond means. And this is why I said from the beginning that before I start this, we must all ask for forgiveness. Bonding is a serious word that we really need to pay attention to. Once we pay attention to it, we'll have a way to go about this safely, smooth, and sound. The word bond, its first definition is a legal term or a legal word. The word bond means evidence of a long-term debt. What is that evidence of long-term debt? Marriage. Having a wife. It's a long-term debt. You can't go against it. By which the bond issuer and the borrower is obliged to pay interest when due and repay the principal at maturity as specified on the face of the bond certificate. Bond certificate, marriage certificate. Think you want to bond with people, just be bonding with people, you can go ahead. But I tell you what, you are carrying something onto yourself that you never would wish you put yourself into. Sex is a bond, it's a covenant. And once you have sex with people, you seal that. Now I want to sound this to people who rape people. When you rape people, you think you're just satisfying your desire, but you've hurt somebody, you've broken somebody, you've wounded somebody, you put pain in somebody, and that you won't be forgiven. That you forget it. It's even a crime against a natural law, a natural governmental law. So if you think you've raped somebody and you're going scot-free, tomorrow, what you might not pay for today, you might pay for it tomorrow, or your children and your children's children pay for it. So sex is a bond. You must bind and bond rightly. Peace out.